Hello, and welcome back to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kaylee Kennedy. Today, I want to talk to you about motivation in two different ways. Coming from the standpoint of leadership, I have worked with many teams over the past couple of years since I've been coaching. And one of the most common things that I hear from team leaders is, how do I keep my team motivated? How do I motivate other people? So I want to start there and then talk about personal motivation because I think motivation is really interesting. And motivation also isn't a one size fits all. We all have different things that motivate us. I actually have a lesson in my mindset program, helping people understand what their intrinsic motivating factors are so that you can focus all your personal and professional goals in that area. But when it comes to leading a team and keeping your people motivated, one thing that leaders really need to understand is company goals are great and they're super important and they can be very motivating. However, what is going to really motivate the individuals on your team isn't your company goals necessarily. It's their goals, their own personal goals, and how those goals fit into the company goals. So, what do they get out of this? And creating a goal-oriented environment where goal setting, and I have a lot of episodes on goal setting, so I feel free to, after this episode, pop back and listen to a couple of my goal setting episodes to get some tips on how to create a goal-oriented environment or even to do some goal setting work with your team, but to help them connect with their own personal goals. I've worked on teams before. I've led teams before. Um, I've achieved goals in the most challenging moments of my life because I was motivated, because my goals connected with my why and my purpose. When my son was going through cancer treatment, I was coaching at another company under an international coaching umbrella. And yeah, the organization's goals were great, but what got me out of bed in the morning when going through the most challenging times was how my goals fit in and what my goals are going to do for my life, for my family, not the company goals, even though the company goals are super, super important. But where are you going to get the individuals? Where are you going to get your team to buy in? You're going to get them to buy in more when they can emotionally connect with their goals. And when I say emotionally connect with their goals, I mean, like, not just think about the goals, but really like feel an emotional connection with those goals, creating a desire for those goals, because desire is what moves people. Just wanting a goal isn't enough. I bet anyone listening to this episode can think of things that they've wanted, but they still haven't been motivated to go out and get those. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this episode, but I want to focus on leadership and creating that motivating environment within your team. This is one thing that I do. I do work with teams on. I've worked with a bunch of different teams in a bunch of different industries in different factors, from anywhere from helping them with goal setting, helping them understand goals, helping them understand the kind of basic mindset and the role that our belief systems play in setting goals and why some people don't set goals, and what are the goals that are going to create that intrinsic motivation opposed to the goals that aren't as exciting, that are easier to just think about, but not not gonna jump out of bed in the morning for these goals, right? So I do a lot of work with teams in that sense. I also do a lot of work with like sales teams and understanding how our mindset and our beliefs around sales is a complete correlation to our own results. And how can we create these goals that are going to excite you, that are going to kind of force you to get outside of your comfort zone, to go above and beyond, um, and have that motivation? Because what leader doesn't want your team to just be like, every single member of your team to be go-getters, to be out there generating their own leads, doing their own networking without you hounding them to do that? They have their own motivation to go out and do the work that's needed in order to achieve those goals, and not just waiting for the leads to come in or whatever kind of systems you have in place. That's the difference between creating that goal-oriented environment and creating that motivation within your team and having them connect with their own personal goals. The more you can have them connect with their own personal goals, the more you're going to create that motivation. And if you're a leader and you lead a team and you're listening to this and being like, yeah, this all sounds great, but where would I even get started? This is some of the work that I do with teams, and I reach out and I would be happy to chat a little bit more about how I could support you. And this is something that I can do both in person and virtually as well. A great question that I would, ask if I was a leader listening to this episode and you have heard yourself say in the past, how do I motivate how do I motivate my team, or how do I keep my team motivated? A great first question for you would be, have I created a goal-oriented environment within my organization, within my company culture, within my team? Another question is, how can I more foster that goal-oriented environment? To be honest, I'm not surprised now, but at the beginning of my journey when I started working with more team leaders, I was shocked at how many team leaders didn't actually know their team's personal goals. That's really important, to know your team's personal goals, because that is where they're going to have that emotional connection and they're going to create that motivation from within. External motivation can only go so far. External motivation isn't sustainable, and external motivation isn't what's going to get your team to jump out of bed in the morning when there's challenges, when life presents challenges, or there's the natural ebbs and flows in business and results, right? It's being able to have that motivation no matter what's going on, no matter what your circumstances are. That only comes from within. Some people will take longer to create that emotional connection with their goals, and other people will be able to create that vision and create that connection quicker. And this work isn't one size fits all. So it's really important to foster an environment that kind of meets your team where they're at, while also encouraging them to have that emotional connection with their goal. That is the best way that I've seen leaders really shift their company culture to create more motivation and more drive within their team members. Now I want to talk about personal goals and personal motivation, because I think this is an important thing to talk about as well, even to understand how to motivate your own team, but understanding how to motivate yourself in different ways. One of my first coaches used to say all the time, she used to say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so I kind of like bought into that for a while. And then I really started to think about, this was a couple years ago. I really started to think about it. I'm like, that's not true. I have a lot of clients who hustle, they grind at their business. They're always going above and beyond to get the work done. They're super, super ambitious. However, maybe they have a goal, a health and wellness goal, but they don't approach that health and wellness goal in the same way that they approach their business goals. That maybe that financial motivator or that financial drive is stronger. Oftentimes, one of the things that I actually do see in a lot of my individual clients is there's that drive for the results within business and not within your own kind of like personal care, because there's actually a belief of self-worth that needs some healing. This isn't everyone. This is just something that I do see very frequently. So how you do one thing isn't how you do everything, because we approach different things differently based on what our motivators are and what our desires are. This is something that I learned from a past mentor that I still carry on and talk to my clients about, and it's the idea of desires. And he called it, and I still call it, desire sequencing, because whatever desires are on top will win. And we can have multiple desires running at the same time. If you think of business goals and health and wellness goals, for example, those can both be desires, but one of them is going to be higher than the other. And the one that's higher is the one that's going to always take priority. So what you want to start to do is understand where some of these goals and some of these desires fall on your kind of sequencing or your priority list. And the ones that are lower that you want to be higher, you spend some more time nurturing maybe the ideas or the beliefs that are stopping you from moving those up the priority list or the sequence, or that is where you need to spend more focused time on habit shifting. Changing a habit isn't always easy, and it does take time. And sometimes we don't give ourselves enough time to make that habit change. Oh, I'll try for a week, and if it doesn't work, that's not how it works, right? It's that persistent and consistent action. And what that persistent and consistent action does is it actually creates more desire. The other thing, if you are looking at what motivates you and what areas of your life, okay, these are where things are working really, really well. I'm showing up the way that I want to show up. I'm doing the work. I'm achieving the results. And then looking at the kind of the flip side, okay, these are the areas that I want to improve. It's going to take conscious intention to create those new habits. Some of those habits, the things that are already working, those habits have probably already been created. But it's the ones that haven't that are going to take time and love and grace and nurturing to create, so that you actually do show up in these areas of your life the same way that you do others that are higher on that kind of priority list. A lot of the time too, it's really looking at the idea behind some of those goals and some of those desires. So I'm going to use kind of business and health and wellness, for example. For me personally, business goals have kind of come easier for the past couple years since I've been an entrepreneur to show up. And then what I had found, especially when I was going through the challenges with my son's health, is that, my self-care was still there, but health and wellness and fitness and things like that, those fell off the wayside. And this year, I wanted to create more consistency in taking care of my body and working out and getting back into those old habits and routines that I used to have, like prior to kids. So what I really needed to do there was change that desire, because the old me, I worked out to release weight, and it was actually coming from a place of not self-love. Whereas now it comes from a place of self-love, but it also comes from a desire to take care of my body so that I can keep up with my kids and so that I can have more longevity. So my motivation is different. My motivation is actually more of a self-preservation now than kind of from a place of not feeling good about myself or not feeling worthy. So shifting that idea behind those goals has created more consistency in those habits. So I am showing up more and more and more, and I am prioritizing, going to the gym and going for walks and moving my body and all of those things that prior to I wasn't. So I wanted to share that example because that actually I've had this conversation alone with a lot of clients about, like, we only have so much time in the day. So how do I fit it all in? That's the other thing. Well, how do I fit it all in? Yeah, I want to do all of these things, but I also, I want to rest. It's like I want to spend time with my family, and the truth is we make time for the things that are important. So when you're able to raise the desire level on some of those other things, you will make time for it, and nothing actually falls off the wayside. It's intentional. It's intentional time. How much time do you spend doing things that aren't actually producing the results that you want? How much time do you spend scrolling on social media? Or how much time do you spend overthinking? Just overthinking something, overthinking a launch, overthinking a challenging conversation or putting off that challenging conversation, or like how much time do you spend in that energy? Imagine if you made decisions quicker and got things done more efficiently, how much more time you'd have. So do you see how there's like all of these desires and all of these things running at the same time? And we tend to, and I'm generalizing here, but we tend to prioritize the things that are within our comfort or familiarity zone. We overthink the things that are outside of that. We overthink the things that are beyond that, because it's more challenging, or I'm not sure, so I'm going to make up all of these stories, and that costs a lot of time and energy. Imagine if you didn't expend time and energy there, and you were able to take that time and use that towards health and wellness goals, your business wouldn't suffer. Your business would actually increase. You'd be doing more, and you'd also be taking care of yourself. It's all beliefs. And it's how we believe that we're worthy of prioritizing ourselves. We believe that we're worthy of rest. We believe that we're worthy of having these conversations. We believe that we're worthy or that we know enough to make some of these decisions. I started this episode talking about how to motivate your team and finish this episode with how to motivate yourself in areas where maybe that those motivators or those there's competing desires. You can use some of these tools with yourself, but also with your team. So, first of all, emotional connection to those goals is going to create motivation. So, whether that's for yourself or for your team, creating more emotional connection to those desires that are lower on your priority list will help you move those desires up your priority list so that you stop creating so many excuses about them. And then just really being aware of where you're spending your time and energy, because yes, time is finite, but if you really look around, not in comparison, but you see other people who are, well, how do they fit it all in? They're more efficient, not spending as much time and energy worrying about certain things, or they delegate. Those are all desires, and there's beliefs behind those desires, which could be stopping you from actually doing the things and taking the action, or just moving those up your desire list. So I hope you were able to take some tools away from this episode. This is a conversation that I am constantly having with my clients, whether they lead teams or for themselves. I know this is a conversation I will continue to have as long as I'm coaching, because it's something that we're always going to face. And how do I manage these competing desires, and what should take priority right now? And that all comes down to your goals and the decisions that you make. So until next time, set those goals, raise those desires, and keep on living your limitless life.